Hey everyone, welcome to the Anti-Social Rewind. I'm here with Iain Harrington, chiropractor at Cedar Integrative Wellness. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm a evidence-based chiropractor who kind of uses the biopsychosocial model to inform his practice.
Interesting. Now you got to elaborate a little bit on what that,
yeah, I
all that
means.
Ask
that. Yeah, I kind of
we'll make that the first question.
I tossed it up there for you. So a couple of things. So evidence-based means that I use the patient values. So their expectations and values. So when they come into me, they usually have, I expect you to do an adjustment. I expect you to do a physical exam, a thorough physical exam.
So you ask them what they expect.
Absolutely, yeah, it's huge. Understanding patients' expectations is massive, and it gives you a lot of information on their case and their condition. The second piece of that is using my clinical experience. So I've been, and I know this is a question coming up, but I've been an intern for the last year at school, so our final year at college. We are an intern, so we practice under someone else's license. Yeah. So I use that experience, and then using the best available research. So evidence-based chiropractic or evidence-based practice is using those three pillars. And then biopsychosocial-wise, it's using a complex interaction of what's happening in the tissues, so the biology of the patient, their thought process, so like expectations, their fears, their beliefs around why they're in pain, and then their social aspects, so education levels, who's at home with them, so their job, their occupation, all the things like that. So their barriers to seek out care. So you're using those three to inform your practice and inform your management.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. So you sort of already started to answer that, but how long have you been a chiropractor for?
So I've been a chiropractor since, I graduated June 20th of this year. And then, so I've been in practice for 2 months, and then previous to that, I was an intern for a year, so I'm pretty fresh.
Right, so intern for a year, though, you're still practicing on patients, right? You're just
Absolutely,
not working for yourself, right?
Yeah, and then still studying and doing assignments and testing and doing the board exams and things like that, so there's a lot of other stuff on top of that, but yeah, pretty fresh.
Yeah, awesome. So, sorry, just backing up a bit, how long did you have to go to school for to become a chiropractor?
Much like Gray, Dr. Siglet, I did an undergrad, so that was 4 years, and then the chiropractic school is another 4 years, so a total of 8 years after. Is it crazy? Yeah. I really enjoy school. I'm a bit of a nerd, so
nice.
I loved every second of it, besides the end when I just wanted to get out and help
get
people,
the big test over with. Yeah,
get the big test over with for sure, and yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love school though.
I don't mind school. I think like when I was younger, I never liked it, but now I do. I like learning.
Would you go back?
I don't think I did to get my real estate license, I guess, in a sense, but not for a long period of time. There's a point where I thought it would be cool to do like physiotherapy or something.
Cool.
But I don't think I would commit to that length of time at this stage in life.
Right.
So probably not, but I'm always learning and trying to learn some way or other.
Independent learning.
Podcast or going to training or so.
Nice.
I think that's important to continually be learning for sure. Maybe I'd go back one day. I'll turn 40, have a midlife crisis, and be like, I'm becoming a doctor.
Why not?
We'll see. How do you say the industry has changed in the last 5 years? Well, you haven't been in it 5 years, but you probably know quite a bit about how it's developed and changed. And how do you stay ahead of it all?
Yeah, so I think this has always kind of been changing, but research is the currency of any profession. Mm-hmm. So there's a big push in the profession to value evidence and research. So I think that's been a big piece of the puzzle, and there's now a lot more chiropractors staying in academia in terms of getting their PhDs, and that's really important for the profession because historically it's been either on the fringes of the mainstream medical, mainstream healthcare, and kind of on the fringes a little bit. So right now there's a big push to be evidence-based, and it's changing in that direction in terms of getting more onto the mainstream healthcare than it is being a little more contemporary.
Right, I see. So
does that
more,
make sense?
Yeah, totally. Like not more accepted, but more
integrated
with the medical system, not
totally.
like a
Totally. So I guess
they should do that with a lot of things, like naturopaths and stuff too.
Yeah,
But they don't, I guess. But
yeah, and everyone has their little pockets in their silo of where they work, and historically healthcare has been very siloed, where the RMTs are doing something over here, and the chiros are doing something over here, and the naturopaths are there. So right now there's a big push in terms of everyone being very transparent and interprofessional collaboration. And I think that's where the major change is happening in our profession is being transparent with what we're doing, and here's the evidence for it. And the most important part is having chiropractors not necessarily go out and sort of practice, but stay in school, get their master's and PhD, and really get value and prove the value of the profession. So that's where it's changing. There's more chiropractors getting their PhD, which is really important.
Yeah, and like any industry, you hear mixed things on it. Like I've always went to a chiropractor, but I don't go unless I need it, right? Like I just, which is maybe I should be going more to be proactive instead of reactive, but that's a tough one, right?
Okay, well let's talk about that later on. Maybe we could discuss that. But yeah, the big thing is the evidence thing, and historically, do you know about how chiropractic was created and its history? And
no,
not
like
at
that? All.
So I guess this is interesting. It might be interesting for your viewers, but. It's been around for roughly just over, probably Graham, just over 100 years now, and it was a guy by the name of D.D. Palmer that created the profession.
Yeah.
So his philosophy was that 95% of every ailment that the human can present with was caused by the flow being restricted out of the nervous system through the spine. Right. So the theory was that it was called a subluxation. So if your spine was subluxed and it was creating an impingement on the nerve, then that would now impede your ability to heal and cause problems. Now the reason why the profession has kind of been on the fringes or in contemporary healthcare, or not contemporary, how do you say? Just on the fringes of healthcare, is because there's been a population that still subscribe to that theory, and then there's the evidence-based kind of people going in that direction.
And so it's opposite direction, I'm assuming?
A little bit, or people just kind of subscribing to the D.D. Palmer's theory of the subluxation and the spine being out of place, and then there's more of the musculoskeletal expert and where the evidence is suggesting we should go, kind of thing. So it's just a little interesting factoid about the history of chiropractic. And the first adjustment, apparently, it was on a guy, I forget what his name was, but D.D. Palmer cured his hearing. He was a deaf guy, and he gave an adjustment and cured his hearing. So that's kind of the
I've heard
foundation.
some interesting stories like that too, like guys that are like recovering and being able to walk again from it, right?
Yeah, and this might be just banana phone over the past 100 years. Whether or not that story is true is up for debate, but it's just an interesting little story, I guess.
It's interesting you talk about theory, because I always picture theory, like when I did my heavy-duty mechanic schooling, is you hear about theory and then theory changes, right? So theory is just theory until it's proven wrong at some point sometimes, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like electrical theory has totally changed a bunch of times because they figured out, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah, and that's the beauty
about guessing.
That's the beauty about science and being evidence-based is, you go where the science tells you, and then the next day it could completely change and say, we actually disprove this. We need to go back to the drawing board, and it's a very dynamic process. So, maybe in 15 years they say the subluxation exists, and if we get that bone off of that nerve, then we can cure a lot of other interesting things. The science doesn't support that right now, but that's the cool thing about science is that, maybe tomorrow or next year something else will be proven and we need to move and go in that direction.
Yeah. With technology too, of course,
Totally.
right? As technology changes. So backing up a bit, because that's sort of how it's changed. What about as far as like social media and marketing and stuff? Do you think it's changed in that aspect as well?
In terms of how chiropractors are marketing?
Yeah, or they have to. I mean, me and Graham talked about this too. He's like, I didn't want to be an entrepreneur when I decided to become a doctor, but I think there's a different separation. Maybe chiropractor's a little less, but a naturopath compared to a medical doctor, there's definitely a separation there because it's not pushed by, it's not paid for and it's not mainstream, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I think, the social media wise, it's definitely, that's where people are getting information, I think. So, that chiropractors now are putting a lot of information in terms of their practice philosophy and whether or not that's accurate information is really important as well.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think it's great that we can spread all of these different ideas around really quickly, and get that out in front of people. But at the same time, I think people have to be really good consumers of knowledge and ask, is that accurate information? Is that not accurate?
Yeah.
And where is this coming from? And just because it's provided by a healthcare practitioner doesn't necessarily make it perfectly true or make it helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just like anything, really. I mean, everyone learns things in different ways and deciphers it differently, and whether they're right or wrong in their own mind is different than someone else's.
Yeah, we have to be good consumers of knowledge.
Yeah, for sure. What did you do before becoming a chiropractor, and how did you get into it? What did you do before becoming a chiropractor, and how did you get into becoming a chiropractor?
Sure, yeah. So I was a volleyball player growing up. I was a small man playing a tall man sport. I don't know how it happened.
I think you're taller than me, and you got me.
Yeah. I don't know how it happened, but I had the opportunity to go to Vancouver Island University and study sport health and physical education while playing on the volleyball team there.
Oh, nice.
And while I was there, my head coach was actually a chiropractor and doing really well, and sounded like he's having a lot of fun. So he was a big motivator for me to get into the profession. And I always knew I wanted to go into some sort of healthcare field. Especially going through the sport health and physical education program and being an athlete all my life, I saw I had back problems, I had shoulder problems, so I was seeing a lot of physiotherapists, and so physio was always on the table. But then when I met Abe Avender, my volleyball coach and chiropractor in Nanaimo, he motivated me to go to school. And the chiropractic school is 4 years, whereas the Masters of Physio is 2. So I felt that I might get a better education base going and getting a 4-year degree rather than a 2-year degree. So I chose that because I like school. So I was like, I'll go for 4 years. I'll get more knowledge out of it. So
when I did my schooling for heavy duty, I was like, do I go take a short course on an excavator and learn how to run an excavator for like 2 weeks? And then I was like, there's a 10-month heavy duty pre-op. I'll do that because it's same sort of thing. I'm like, it's longer. I should learn more, right?
And so, did you find that beneficial? Was that
important
for you?
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I could learn lots. And then I did the whole apprenticeship, right? So definitely learned a lot more than a couple weeks on an excavator.
Yeah.
Totally different field, but that was sort of. And I was going to maybe get a class 1, and but and then real estate. I don't know how that happened. But.
And then after that, after much like Graham's story, I was a wildfire fighter in Nelson with him. So that allowed me to take some time off between school and travel and do all that kind of stuff and get that out of my system.
Yeah.
And then I went back to school after that. So that's what I did before being a chiropractor.
Nice. I need to do some traveling one day. So you already sort of got into this, but how would you describe chiropractic medicine to someone who has never heard of it before?
Can I turn that around and ask you how you would describe chiropractic care to someone on the street?
I don't know. The alignment of musculoskeletal tissue or bones or...
Right, that's a good start. It's a good foundation for sure.
Something like that, but I don't know.
I would describe it as a expert in musculoskeletal health, so that means bones, soft tissue like muscles, tendons, ligaments, and how best to go through life being pain-free and taking care of your body. So aging gracefully and being able to move and gyrate and dance into your old age, and performance enhancement in terms of sports. So there's a whole bunch of areas that you can go into, but I think the kind of the base would be being an expert in musculoskeletal health, and then having a focus on the spine, because we do a lot of schoolwork, and our expertise is around the spine. However, a lot of chiros, because we study the whole body, a lot of chiros like to specialize in the shoulder or headaches or things like that in the hips. But our main foundation, especially in our studies, in our early studies, is focused on the spine. Yeah.
And definitely important, but obviously every person's going to be different too on how deep or how far it goes. Like an athlete's going to be different than someone that's just got a bad back and is older or something, right?
Everyone's going to be different. So
what they need.
Yeah.
What makes you passionate about what you do?
What makes me passionate about what I do? I think dealing with and interacting with people in pain and hearing their story, and then sending them on a journey to recovery and tweaking that journey and seeing how they respond to different things. And it's definitely a passion of mine to understand someone wholeheartedly and where they're coming from, and trying to make changes and give them the skills to kind of treat themselves. I think
is
really
not
important.
Get to that point where they need you, sort of thing.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, needing me in terms of how can I manage my condition?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times, and there's a big problem in my field where we tell someone, well, your spine's out of alignment, your bone's out of place, and you need to come see me, and I can put that back for you. It causes a couple of problems. One problem is that there's no evidence to support the fact that things become out of misaligned and then I pop it back in.
Right.
And then that also creates dependency for the patient. So what that means is that the patient can't help themselves. There's something wrong with them. Whereas, then they'll, have to spend a lot more dollars to get treated.
Yeah.
So
you want the
spending
client to come first is important, obviously, right?
Absolutely.
I think in anything, in real estate, in naturopath, and anything where you have a client or a patient, that should be the number one thing.
Yeah. So
not always, but
so you can go to 10 different healthcare practitioners with low back pain, for example.
Yeah.
Okay? And they'll get 10 different diagnoses. They'll get 10 different plans of management. And then they don't know what's going on. So that's important because someone like you, let's talk about your case, for example, just a little bit if you're comfortable with that.
Sure.
Right? So you've suffered from low back pain before?
My low back's pretty good. My rib goes out. My rib on that side. I remember when I was applying for resumes after I had knee surgery, it was like, that was the day. It was like, I remember the day that my ribs hurt bugging me. So that's what I normally get adjusted.
Right.
Rib.
Yeah.
And now I blame it on my phone when it goes out.
You're on your phone?
Yeah. Well, no, I just blame it, right? Because it's like that's the hand I use for my phone, and it's the cause.
Yeah. Or
sure.
we go to, or say someone that has osteoarthritis. So osteoarthritis of the knee is pretty common for people. Yeah. So a lot of the times they'll say you have wear and tear, and it's bone on bone in there, and so this is going to be painful, and there's nothing we can really do besides maybe wait and get.
So to the knee surgery, that's basically what they say.
Yeah, or not even the surgeon.
You have no cartilage there.
Yeah, exactly. So, but we know now that the best thing that people can do with osteoarthritis of the knee and hip early on in their management is to move and exercise.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make sense to me if I'm not told that movement and exercise is important, if I don't understand my pain. So it's really important what the expectations and beliefs are about the patient. Because if I'm under the impression that it's wear and tear and bone on bone in there, then there's no way I'm going to do exercise, even though it's the best treatment available for me.
Right, because it holds the
so
joints apart.
A lot of the times telling people that their pelvis, your low back pain is because your pelvis is out of alignment or your spine's out of alignment is might not be important for them, and it's harmful in terms of they're not going to exercise anymore because they're scared to put it back out of alignment. So we have to be really, really careful in terms of what we're telling our patients, what the public understands. So a big thing right now is changing the narrative on musculoskeletal healthcare and what is true and what beliefs are true in terms of back pain and any real condition, and not threaten and give these threatening diagnoses that might not be helpful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally, for sure. I mean, you hear it all the time, even from medical doctors, right? You did something or you injured something, you can never do this again. Or you had heart surgery, you can't work out anymore.
Yeah. Or like
it's like they talk you out of doing anything with your life.
I love the fact that people get assessed and they'll come out of a healthcare consultation and they'll say, well, my back's out of alignment, my pelvis is twisted, and I have flat feet, and that's why I have this problem. But then you go and
it's not curable.
Well, go look at the Paralympics. These people are they're high functioning without any pain, and they're athletes, and like why isn't that impacting giving them pain or things like that? All of these discrepancies and imbalances that they'll have because they're missing a limb or something like that. It's like they're not in pain. So why are we telling people that are in pain that this is the reason that you have this problem? Well, it's maybe a piece of the puzzle. If it's important, then it's important. It might not be. It might be their sleep. It might be their diet. It might be their stress. It might be the beliefs that they have. So we have to be really important about, or we have to be really careful what we say is important to that specific person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now I'm way off where we're at.
No, just having a good conversation.
No, not a question. So for you, what would you say is your biggest accomplishment in life, I guess, or in chiropractor, or do you think you've reached it yet?
I don't think I've reached it yet. I think that it's always good to be optimistic about what you can accomplish in your life, and I definitely have a lot of goals that I want to accomplish, and kind of putting that on a hierarchy of what I want to do. But in terms of past accomplishments, graduating from chiro school was definitely that. Yeah, for sure. A lot of late nights, a lot of ripping out my hair, a lot of frustration and stress.
Still got lots of it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely some bald patches in my head that are from the school, and some grays for sure. But it was one of the best experiences of my life, and that's my biggest accomplishment so far.
Yeah, for sure. That's huge. I think as far as goals and accomplishments, they should never have one biggest one. Hopefully, you're still trying to attain them, right, and learn more and grow. What are your long-term goals?
Yeah, so my long-term goals, I guess, would be to, I eventually want to start a practice in the next X amount of years. It would be nice to own my own practice and detail and focus that practice on spinal health. I think it'd be really cool.
So sort of have a niche, not like of your own within chiropractic?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 80% of the population at one point or another will experience back pain. And 20% of that population will go on to have persistent disabling low back pain, and they eat up most of the healthcare resources. It's the number one leading cause of disability worldwide is low back pain. Yeah, and the neck is number 3 or 4. So I think
my neck could use some work.
Yeah, I think it's important that there's a place where people can go to get primary spine care, much like people go to see a dentist. You know, you go to see a dentist when you have a tooth problem. Yeah. I think it would be a cool clinic to have. You know, I have a low back problem. I'm going to go to the low back practitioner, and that would be the clinic that I would like to start. That would have, you know, RMTs, naturopaths, physician on staff, a couple of chiropractors, and just have an integrated wellness center of spinal health. So that would be my goal. In terms of maybe a more academic goal, going back to school and doing a master's and PhD wouldn't be off the table. I think that would be really cool, but I have to get to a place in my life where I can free up some time for that.
Time and money.
But that's definitely not off the table. I'd like to get some more education.
So sorry, what is a PhD exactly? What would that entail?
So a PhD is, you have to get a master's before that. So a master's, you can do that in a whole bunch of different areas. So mine would be focusing on a specific question, and a specific question for me would be something in the spinal health related field. And then going on to getting a PhD is a doctor. You're getting a doctorate in that specific area of focus. So so people get PhDs in disabling low back pain as a physiotherapist, or PhDs. You can get a PhD in nearly anything these days, but you have to have a certain research question and topic, and it's very, very specific, and then you get a doctorate of that area of focus. So a doctorate in, it would probably be a doctorate in rehabilitation sciences or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. So going back a bit, like you talk about people coming in already with problems, and I even said it being proactive instead of reactive. Is that something that people should be seeing a chiropractor before they have issues, or you know what I mean? Like, is it something that you can avoid by seeing someone like you ahead of time?
So that's kind of being studied right now, and with some PhDs over in Finland, I think in Norway, are doing a study on does chiropractic maintenance care help with low back pain, and there's really promising results in terms of being on a kind of a maintenance schedule. Not once every week, but once every other month or things like that. And I think it's more about instilling the self-management strategies that you've been taught instead of the manipulation itself. So the spinal adjustment or whatever you want to call it. I think just seeing a healthcare practitioner and talking and discussing about your condition will in and of itself provide positive outcomes for people. So I think it's important, especially if you're dealing with low back pain. But low back pain is interesting, where if you have low back pain, if you're part of that 80% that will have it, 6% will go on to have disabling, 6 to 20% will go on to have constant disabling low back pain. 20% will be improved, and they won't have another bout of low back pain. And the vast majority are in the middle, where it's episodic. So going back to seeing your chiropractor and getting some pain relief about, so if you've had an episode of low back pain, you can go to see a chiropractor. They'll give you education, they'll give you some exercises, and they'll give you some manual therapy in terms of an adjustment. Yeah. And that adjustment's providing some pain relief. So we call that an analgesic. So it's almost like taking an Advil or something like that. It dampens kind of the pain signal. Okay. So if you're wanting to get that, then that will be helpful. And then you can get some education around what's going on and how you can best manage it yourself. So it is important for some people that, I just don't feel like I want to be in pain today. I'll go to the chiropractor. Yeah. Get a conservative adjustment that'll decrease the pain. I'll learn about how I can go about my days again, and then I can get some exercises as well that might help me. Yeah. So, yeah, it's important to go see someone, but do you have to constantly go back to see someone? Not if you've had appropriate care where they've given you the ability to self-manage yourself. Yeah. Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense. And I think going back to just general life, if you've learned or maybe talked to the chiropractor, probably doing some of the exercises and stretching properly before you play volleyball or go work as a mechanic. I always used to get made fun of because I'd sit there and there's nothing going on and I'd stretch as a mechanic. Yeah. Why do you stretch so much? Why not?
Because it's helpful.
I need it.
Because it's helpful.
And then I go to the gym after, right? I needed to stretch, and they always sort of poked at me, right? But it's I think if you do that, you can avoid having to see someone, hopefully, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then but if you do need to, I feel like I need to go talk to someone about it because this might be different, or just get reassured that it's nothing different. It's not getting worse. It's just your standard non-specific low back pain. Here are the things you can do about it. I think it's good to have those booster sessions. But in terms of seeing a chiropractor once a week and get an adjustment, there's no evidence to support that's just a lot of money that you don't need to spend if you have the right self-management strategies.
Yeah, for sure. Which is funny too. I've had, I think, a lot of my girlfriends in the past have always been, I wouldn't say they're afraid of a chiropractor, but never been. I went when I was quite young, so
it's natural to
with it. Yeah. But my wife, she goes and gets an hour massage. She cures my neck. Well, she popped my back or a bit or adjusted. I'm like, I'll go see a chiropractor because it might make that management that much better to get it back into alignment, and then, like you say, maybe some exercises, some stretches.
Yeah, and it's important.
I think some people have fear of it, right?
I think a lot of people, and that's the thing going back to it, is that a lot of people don't know what chiropractors do.
Fair enough.
It's right now the utilization rate. So if you take everyone in Canada, 12% of the population is seeing a chiropractor. That's it.
Right.
So there is some stigma or beliefs or the unknown of the whole chiropractic thing. But really it's just getting a really good history physical done so you can be reassured that it's nothing too sinister. And then if there is something sinister or kind of scary, so infections, cancers, things like that, then we're really trained to be able to identify that and refer you on to someone that can help you. But for the vast majority, in 90% of the cases, we can help with any musculoskeletal condition and in a conservative way. So there's no medications. We're not talking about surgeries yet, but we'll refer you to people when we think it might be time to talk about that. And things like that. So a lot of times people think that, they're just gonna crack my neck. Where the new grads are now not so much just one adjustment and you're out the door. It's talking to the person, understanding their story, educating the person, and giving them their ability to achieve their goals and being really patient-centered. Yeah.
I think with things like that too, sometimes stuff people already know they should be doing, but the reminder, someone else telling you, Robert, you should stretch more, right? And
yeah.
So click, you start
just
doing
hearing it from the healthcare provider is important. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And getting that reassurance is like, okay, I knew I had to do that, and now that someone's told me that that's really important, and they put it in maybe a different way than the way I was thinking about it, I'll go on and do that and slowly integrate that into my life. It doesn't have to, you don't have to run a marathon tomorrow, you know, but like working up to really building capacity in the human system is important.
So it's funny because like I bet a lot of people in the world, they think, oh, my back's bugging, I can go to the doctor and get some drugs, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want to ask if you think it's better to see a chiropractor first, because that might not be the way to put it, but have you seen it where someone's maybe like they were on drugs and they started seeing a chiropractor, they didn't have to take them anymore, or they saw a chiropractor first and they didn't end up needing them?
So it's funny that you mentioned this. There's a really cool paper that just came out in September, and it was looking at people with spinal complaints, so neck and low back pain and some mid back pain, but I think it was just neck and low back. And the study found that people that receive chiropractic care were less likely to take opioids.
Right.
So that's a really important study.
Whether prescribed or not prescribed, or just in general?
Prescribed. Yeah, prescribed. Okay. Yeah. So that's hard to study because people. Because you can't follow that. Yeah. So prescribed opioids, but it was a really interesting study for me because that really validates the value that I can provide to people.
Yeah.
And the jury is still out on whether or not chiropractic care can help get people off of opioids, but it's been associated with less opioid use, so that's pretty cool and timely. Like you just asked that, and that paper just came out. So and then that was a paper looking at a whole bunch of different studies. So we call that a review. So it's not just one study; it's a whole bunch of studies, which makes it a little more powerful.
Which is important for sure. Yeah. So different studies done different ways, and different people, different places,
more people.
Yeah. What advice would you give someone who's interested in getting into chiropractic medicine?
So younger people or people like yourself maybe going back to school?
Young? I'm older than you are, right?
Well, I was going to say, you mentioned you might want to go back to school. Maybe it's chiropractic school.
Maybe.
Yeah. So is that what you mean by that?
Just anyone that wants to get into it. Yeah.
It
doesn't matter our age, I guess.
Yeah.
Really.
So
Did I say younger?
No, I just...
Maybe I will one day. You never know. I'm still young.
I would say a few things. I would say to question everything that you learn in school if you were to go into school.
Like question why.
Question why. Yeah, I think a lot of times, and I've noticed, especially when I was going through school, is that people just took the professor's word for things, and it's kind of a well-known thing that research is always changing, and what we're taught 5 years down the road, 50% of that will be disproven and wrong.
And how many years has he been teaching the same thing?
Exactly. So they might be a little updated. So always question why and is that 100% right? Because I think a lot of times students just take it for what it's like. Okay, you said it, then that's right.
Take it for gospel or whatever.
Yeah. So I would say be an independent learner and do your own research and make sure that you're a good consumer of knowledge in terms of.
They must love that though.
Who?
The teacher.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I never prove them wrong.
And they're doing really important work. Like education is really important, but you have to stay on top of it. You can't just be teaching the same things, year in year out, because it changes so fast. And there's so much research coming out, and so many things are being disproven. And so don't take someone's word for fact, and really go and look up the information yourself. Another thing would be to really understand the information. So that in contrast with being a good memorizer, right? Like people can memorize things and regurgitate it on a test, especially if it's multiple choice.
Right, but actually know it.
But actually understand it and being able to chat about it and discuss and really understand the information is really important, because in chiro school and any graduate school program, you're inundated with so much information that you have to study. So every 2 months we would have roughly around 9 exams or 10 exams in a span of 14 days. And those are 2 months worth of information where you're going full-time school, full-time lecturing. So it's a ton of information. It's almost like standing in front of a fire hose and being blasted with information. Right? Like that's how much we have to be expected to understand for those tests, and that happens every 2 months. So it's really easy to get into the routine of, okay, all I have to do is memorize this, and then I'll regurgitate it. And then once I have to start learning something else, I'll forget all that other stuff. So understanding the important things and understanding to be a critical appraiser of the information. Yeah. So those two things. And then finally, if you want to get into the profession, I would say if you're interested in research, really dive into that, because the profession needs more PhDs, and we need more people doing studies on the value of the profession, so we can integrate ourselves into the mainstream healthcare.
Right. So become
a scientist, or become a researcher.
Right?
Yeah, like you don't have to. There's so many other avenues than just graduating and then going into practice. You can go into teaching, you can go into research and academia, you can go into practice, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. So don't limit yourself to just going in and then having to be a practitioner, because there are so many other things that you can do, and the profession needs more PhDs. So I would say if you like if you like research and reading research, and you're interested in that, then by all means do some more. Yeah. It's just hard because you've already gone through 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of chiro, and then
you want to be like, I'm done.
4 years of getting my PhD. That's intense, but why not?
And I mean, depending on life, would always affect all that.
And money.
Yeah, well, money, life, exactly. So first of all, I have a really bad memory, so I have to try to know things. As you can tell, any of the questions that I asked that weren't on that sheet were definitely...
Well, it's not like you're studying that, though.
From thinking, but backing that up a bit, so when you're learning in school, and you want to question what the teacher's telling you, say go research it. So where do you go research it that you know is a legit source?
Yeah, great question. So there's a hierarchy of evidence. So do you know anything about the hierarchy?
No.
So at the bottom is professional opinion. So that's someone writing a paper, one person writing a paper, and kind of using other research papers and then creating a little editorial. So I think this. Okay. So that's at the bottom, along with case studies. So a case study would be, so for example, if you came into my office and you had low back pain and it was presenting really interesting, or I just wanted to see how a certain intervention would be beneficial or not for you, I would write a report saying Robert came in today with X, Y, and Z. His physical showed this. We're trialing this type of treatment, and we'll follow up with him to see how his outcome was. So that's a case report, just following one person. Now at the top of the pyramid would be guidelines and meta-analyses and reviews. So those are things that are taking a whole bunch of different studies on one topic, looking at the statistics of that, and then having a conclusion. So you're getting the best available evidence all smashed into one, and then they came up with recommendations. So guideline, that's where you get your information from, and then it has to be from a credible publication, a credible journal, a research journal. So you have to look at the hierarchy and say, okay, this is a new topic. It might just be a case report because there's no other evidence to support it. Or you could go to the top of the pyramid and say, this is what the best available evidence is showing, and then use that. And that's where you go to get the best available.
So do you guys have somewhere else to access that besides I would? Like online? Do you have
yeah, so so our library, when we're going to school, we have access to a whole bunch of different journals and databases. Yeah. And that costs X amount of dollars to have access to, and that's part of our tuition. And then once we graduate, we have to now pay the publishers and the databases to be able to access that information. So it's a cost, but it's a professional cost, so we have to pay to get that information.
Yeah, it's probably important.
Yeah, I mean, like you could, if you wanted to, you could pay for that, and then you'd have access to that information. Mm-hmm. But you're not concerned with that, so why would you? And that's why I am able to how do you say, provide value to people. It's because I go and get that information and subsequently give that to people. So that's how I provide value, is going to that evidence and then putting that into clinical practice and my experience and the patient expectations, and then providing that as a package.
Mm-hmm. I think value is key in any industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I try to do, provide value to my clients, and that's why they hire me, right? I mean, that's the key. That's the number one thing when you're talking to someone new. It's like you try to show them value. Right?
And high value, too. Like, there could be things like low value where I would say, Robert, come in, you have to see me every other day for an adjustment or else your back's not going to get better. That's pretty low value. You're spending a lot of money and not getting a ton out of it. But if I can say, Robert, come in to me, I'll teach you a whole bunch of things you can do on your own and you've only paid once.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
super high value. Yeah.
I had a listing appointment today, that's why I got the tie on. So it was funny because I was talking to her and she was sort of like, whoa, she's like, that's a lot of information. I was like, well, do you have any questions? She's like, no, you did really good. You know, I learned something sort of thing. And
that's high value because
soon,
then
right?
she can go and use that knowledge.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. And hopefully calls me back.
Hopefully calls you back.
She will. I'll follow up. So, is there anything, well, no, we're going to this a little bit lighter stuff. I'm not sure if I asked Graham this question, but you're in addition to the crayon box, what color would you be and why?
What color would I be and why? I think I would be an earthy green. An earthy green color. And why? Just because it's maybe my favorite color and I like outdoors.
Mellow, calming. That's a good color.
Yeah.
What is your favorite 90s jam?
That's a great question, and this is maybe the hardest question you've asked, because the 90s was the golden age of hip-hop, and I'm a hip-hop guy.
There you go.
So
the last guy said Tupac.
Did he? Oh, really? What song?
He didn't say song.
No? Yeah, so I would say Tupac is definitely up there, but I would say either Doo-Wop, That Thing from Lauryn Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Or I'm a big Jurassic 5 guy, so maybe Concrete Schoolyard would be.
Yeah, that's good. I don't know the song. But.
Yeah, the golden age of hip hop. I miss it, and
I got a whole bunch of old CDs.
Yeah,
too many. Yeah, I mean, I used to burn them all and put them onto like MP3 or something.
Yeah, I was a big burner guy too.
Too much work. Well, like not burn them, but transfer them so they're on digital.
Right. Okay.
I got a CD player in my truck still, but it's too much work. Swapping it out, big case.
God, we're so spoiled nowadays.
I know. What are you interested in right now? Do you have anything specific you got going on?
Professionally, I'm very interested in changing the narrative around low back pain and what low back pain is. So any chance I get, and this is why I'm really grateful that you had me on here, is because we need to change our narrative of what low back pain is, and we need to change the way healthcare practitioners need to really step back and reflect on if we're doing more harm than good to our patients, in telling them that there's something structurally wrong, because 90% of the time people come in with low back pain and non-specific low back pain. There's no observable structural damage.
Structural being like the actual bones. Like your back being tight and pulling it out wouldn't be considered structural, would it?
Well, I mean that would. If it's out of alignment, or there's muscle imbalances, or you can. There's no real accurate way of defining if that's important or not. It could be relevant in your case, it could not be. But I think the problem arises when people come into a clinic and they're told that their pelvis is out of aligned, and if I can do that for you, then it'll fix you. Whereas we know that back pain goes up and down, right? So people become really increasingly frustrated because they said, well, you promised to fix, I'm not going to go see you, I'm going to go see someone else. And they didn't get fixed because back pain just goes like this naturally. So if we change the narrative around back pain being something that's fixable, that's structural and fixable, and more on in the terms of it's a normal thing that people experience in life, and if you're able to manage it yourself, then it's not a big problem. And just because you've re-experienced an episode of back pain doesn't mean it's actually getting worse. It just means you're experiencing another episode of low back pain. It's almost like getting the flu. Or getting a cold. Yeah. You get a cold. You don't say when you get a cold or you get a headache, for example. Oh, my head is getting so arthritic and it's getting worse because I've had a headache. You're like, no, you just say I've had a headache again. I know how to self-manage, and then it'll go away in a few days. And that's what back pain and the narrative around back pain needs to change. It's not something that's necessarily needs fixing. So that's
part of our society. I think
we need to step back and look at saying, okay, maybe if we change this person's ability to sleep better, increase their physical activity levels, improve their diet, then that would have a way more profound impact than saying I'm just going to poke your back and it's going to be better. That the narrative needs to change a little bit because, believe it or not, it's increased 50% in the last 25 years.
Lower back pain?
And Canada puts in $12 billion annually to solve the low back pain problem. And for something to increase 50% in the last 25 years, with all of that money being put into it, we're not doing something right. So the narrative needs to change in terms of what patients.
Just say wait till there's a problem, right?
What's that?
Well, it's the waiting till there's a problem. Then
or saying that there's a problem when there's not a problem.
Right.
That's also on the other spectrum.
Yeah. I find it interesting, like a life insurance application, for example, and they're on the phone and they're like, do you see a massage? Do you see chiropractic? Well, why? Why do you see them? I'm like, over like general health and well-being, I think was my answer, right? It's like, I don't see them because I'm falling apart. I see them so I don't fall apart,
for sure.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
My muscles are tight.
You can learn, you can learn it, and it feels good, and it makes me, reflect on my health, and
so I actually relax for 5 minutes.
Yeah. So professionally, that's where I'm interested in right now, and then personally, I've recently moved to Cumberland. So
you are in Cumberland too.
I'm in Cumberland as well. Yeah. So I am getting into mountain biking, which is scary and a lot of fun at the same time. So that's my interest right now.
There's some good trails there, isn't there? Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Cumberland.
Yeah.
The hipster town.
Who knew?
My sister lives there. A couple buddies of mine live there.
Cool.
What did you want to do when you were growing up?
I wanted to be a veterinarian when I was younger. When I was small, I wanted to be a veterinarian because I love animals so much. And I was at camp. I was at a camp when I was little, like we all went to camp when we were little. And I told the camp counselor that I wanted to be a vet. And he asked me why, and I said, so it will make the animals happier, and someone needs to care for the animals. And he said, that's stupid because animals can't feel emotions. And it nearly broke my heart. So I was really passionate about animals, and I remember that really sticks out as something that really hurt me when I was younger.
Yeah.
And then since got out of that, and then when I was going through my first year of university, and later in high school and first university, I wanted to be an engineer. My father's an engineer, so I decided to take some engineering courses my first year of university, and the mathematics blew over my head, and I wasn't interested in it, so I got into the healthcare field, and here I am. But the vet and the engineering thing is what I want to do.
It's funny how certain things certain people say stay like stick in your head.
I was mortified. And I can put myself back in that room and just looking at that guy, and I think I might have cried. I'm not sure.
The positive thing is maybe animals do have feelings, but they can't really regurgitate it back to you or appreciate it. Whereas at least chiropractic, someone can say thank you and they can appreciate it. Probably in the long run feels better for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Because at least they know, or you know that you're helping them.
It is definitely something that keeps me motivated, and getting that response back from the patient and saying like, thank you so much. You really changed that for me, and that's it's so rewarding working with people.
Interesting. Was there anything I should have asked you but I didn't ask you?
I think a really important thing is to reflect on our failures. So maybe in your upcoming videos, you can ask people more about if they're comfortable or not. You can ask this before you start rolling.
A failure they've had,
or their biggest failures, because I think we learn a lot. More happens in our failures, I think, than we learn from our successes in life. So you can ask me about my biggest failure.
What was your biggest failure?
My biggest failure would be my varsity volleyball career at university. I would say that I was a pretty talented athlete. I was good at what I did, but I couldn't deal with the pressure when I got into games, and when there was something on the line, it was really hard for me to focus and not beat myself up so much. I was really, really hard on myself, and so that subsequently transitioned into me being more of like a role player or bench guy or practice player. So I was really, really good in practice, and the coach would give me a shot, and I would get in there and completely blow it.
Weird.
And that's something that I didn't do the extra work in doing. I didn't do the extra work in terms of getting my mental game where it needed to be.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've now moved forward from and built confidence in myself, and learn from that in terms of putting in, you need to work at everything, and then being okay with making mistakes. I think, as I just dwelled on making a mistake, and then I wouldn't focus on the next play. I would be focusing on like, oh, I look stupid, or this and that. So I've really grown in that sense, I think.
Yeah, and looking back, obviously, like now you could have worked around it.
For sure, because I know how to do it. Yeah, but I wouldn't have learned that lesson had I not had that colossal failure. Yeah. I think it sucks that I didn't learn that earlier on, and then could have been a better performer at university. But it was that experience is, my best friends are all from that experience, and it was one of the best things of my life still. But in terms of being a really valuable player to that team, at the starting team, I think I could have dealt with it a little differently, and I've learned from that. So, yeah.
I think we had asked a few people about failures before. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one because I think failure is important too. You definitely have to fail and struggle. But I thinking on myself, I don't know what I would say for failures I've done. I mean, I guess growing up as a mechanic, I definitely, you broke stuff and failed when you're trying to fix it.
Yeah.
Stuff falling, and when I became a journeyman mechanic, I actually never had many big mistakes, which was good because you can spend a lot of money or you can get hurt really, really bad, right?
Sure.
Which I've seen happen. But failures, I don't know.
Yeah, reflect. I'm sure there's got to be one or two.
Think about some I can bring up on here. Never failed. I hate failing too, though. I like to get stuff done and completed. Like I'll stick to it until it's right. But
I just know that my biggest learning curves have been when I've not done something well, or when I've had a colossal failure, and then I look back at that and being like, it's funny that I was in that mental state, or I made that decision, and why, and reflect on that, and then you can go forward and be like, I'm not going to make that again. So you can be dialed and learn from that.
And learn from it, for sure. And I think we all have little failures every day. I mean, the one thing I can talk about is real estate. I mean, man, getting into real estate, I don't know about failure, but you learn how to be rejected right away, because it's a competitive industry, right?
Because that's a huge fear. That's a huge fear of people. Yeah. Like being rejected is not something that is comfortable for people.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool skill that I think you guys have probably developed, and you're like, well, the worst they can say is no, or whatever. Like,
well, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you learn to just accept it with little things. You go to a listing appointment, you don't get it, but I've learned to mitigate it more too. Whereas I need to be picky about who I work with. It's not about them always reject me, right? Because there's so many of us, and there's so many clients out there that you need to work with people that are right for you, right? Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. I don't know. I think I was talking to. I think that listing appointment, I was talking to her, and on the phone the other day, I was talking to someone, and I get a lot of business through Facebook. But it's like 2%.
Right.
2 to 4%. 1 to 4% they say is common for online stuff.
Okay.
And I get 2, I may get a little more than 2 sometimes, but see, you're phoning 100 of those inquiries and only 2 of them are going to become clients.
Right, yeah.
But knowing that and deciphering who's real and who's not and who you need to let go, that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah,
now,
being efficient with how you spend your time.
Yeah. Well, it's not actually worrying about who's going to say no. It's like, yes, say no so I can move on to the next person, or give you some value and turn you into a client.
Right. So you just reconceptualize that rejection as something important and positive, because once you get that, you can move on.
Exactly.
So it's really how the perspective with which we see things is so important.
Yeah, and it's way better when someone answers the phone than when you get a phone a bunch of times. Until you say move on, rather than answer and be honest about what they're looking for.
Use your time a little more importantly.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting. But do you have anyone else you'd recommend I interview? I got next. You put next, but not next, but eventually.
Right. So eventually, I would say, well, for my benefit, please keep doing some more healthcare providers.
There we go.
I think
that is a good one.
In terms of RMTs, other naturopaths, other chiropractors would be really cool to get other perspectives, because I have mine. Yeah. But it would be cool to have other people. And you said that you see someone, you have a chiropractor. Who's that?
Yeah, Josh West.
And I think he just maybe the Campbell River Mirror gave him the Chiropractor of the Year award.
Oh, did he get the award?
I think so. So it would be kind of cool to have him up here and see what he has to say.
I thought about asking him. He's a busy guy too.
Yeah, I would say I'm new to the area,
Yeah.
So I don't really know very many people, but I would say keep doing healthcare providers. It would be interesting for me and to get people interested in kind of optimizing their health.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. There's all sorts of ones you could do. I mean, physio. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. I've done lots of car dealerships. I'm doing another car dealership manager next week, so they're always good because they get lots of attention on it, right? But but definitely the health industry has got some value to add and something that interests me, right? So, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Thanks for watching, everyone. Whoever's watching right now. Oh, Tanya, shut her off. Bye.